Welcome to Globewatch with me, Charles EBUNE, aired from one of the hotel rooms here in Boya, the southwest region of Cameroon, as I take part in this year's edition of Cameroon International Film Festival. It is simply called the economic giant of the continent. That, at least, you can argue with South Africa. But, unarguably, she is the continent's movie industry giant. I am talking about Nigeria, a society of at least 170 million people, according to United Nations estimate, and host to the world's second largest movie industry, simply called Nollywood in terms of volume, or if you like, production. The Nigerian movie industry is one of the soft powers helping Nigeria to reshape a course in the 21st century, not only in Africa, but around the world. Question: just how well does the Nigerian movie industry market the image of the country, home and abroad? My guest is one of the well-known faces of the Nigerian movie industry. Ramsey Nouah, welcome to Globewatch.
Thank you for having me.
Let us begin with the year 1992, when Living in Bondage was in the market and produced at roughly $12,000. The market today is not the same. What explains such a surge in the Nigerian movie industry?
It's kind of like pretty hard to actually use that as a template, starting with Living in Bondage, of course, which was one of the first indigenous movie that was shot, and a local language movie that was shot back at the time. It gave birth to the English movie. You know, that was the first kind. And at the time, of course, you need to check out the so many, drawing factors. The economy at the time in Nigeria is not as it is today. Even at that, the economy was totally bad, but Naira still had a huge lot of value in the international market than it is today. However, there's been a huge, humongous growth, from that time till date, which was led by, determined by basically the market. People loved the local content. They love the fact that they can easily identify with the performances and the stories that we talked about. And it spread like wildfire, because unfortunately we had no control of the DVD market right from the onset. Hence, it could easily permeate other countries around the world, and Nigerians in diaspora were very happy to get such to consume. So we got a whole lot of fame than the cash to go with it.
The year 1992 is very significant because it is the year before you entered the Nigerian movie industry, because your mainstream entry was roughly in 1993, and that year equally reflects somehow the economic atmosphere in Nigeria today. Economic turbulence, insurgency, kind of insecurity. When you look at the movie industry, roughly plus 20 years ago today, what kind of artistic evaluation do you make?
Okay, I got in the industry in 1990. At the time, we didn't have Nollywood, of course, but we had TV series and TV soap. I did the pilot of Fortunes at the time, which...
I was referring here to your professional entry. I know that you were part of some kind of television presence already.
Yeah, but that was the 93 was the television.
Oh.
Yeah, because then it was television. So even when we did, when Kenneth Nebo and Neck shot Living in Bondage, I wasn't in the film industry at the time. Even Nollywood hadn't even started.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when he did, it was just an independent movie to just run the market, you know, and it worked. He sold like wildfire. It wasn't as if there was a deliberate structure for cinematography or filmmaking in Nigeria at the time. What gave it that structure was with time, from like 94, 95 when we now started doing English movie, because Living in Bondage sold very well. And then afterwards came Rattlesnake, which was, of course, still indigenous movies, like language movies. And after Rattlesnake and everything, then I went English. And that's when we now had, we decided that, okay, we now have an industry, you know. And with that being said, it actually helped, all of that helped to propel what we have today. Artistically, at the time, there were lots and lots of passion-driven filmmakers at the time. In the beginning, it wasn't about how much, because it wasn't paying anything anyways. It was very little money we were getting at the time. Very little, stipends. But we still loved what we were doing. We were passionate about it. So we did very, very good story and was well told. And then came the nosedive. And that nosedive was towards like early 2000 to like mid 2000s. Now, by early 2000 to mid 2000, there was nosedive. It was just saturated stories, poor technicalities, and all of that really affected the industry. And then came the emergence of cinema from mid 2000.
The home markets is there, plus 170 million people to consume that. When you enter the global markets with your presence on Netflix, do you think you have succeeded to beat the quality equation?
Oh yes, of course. Because for you to get into those global market there, then you certainly would have been able to come across at least over average the quality standard that is required of you in cinematography around the world. And that's how we have come. And what gave birth to that was the emergence of cinema in Nigeria. Because before you can put a movie on a big screen, it's usually capital intensive. It requires a whole lot more professionalism, you understand me, proper filmmaking for you to put on big screen. And that made a whole lot of cinematographers in Nigeria sit up to try and get to that level.
You produce roughly 50 films a week in Nigeria today. A few days ago, I watched your Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, on CNN with Richard Quest, saying that the quality of the Nigerian movie industry can be improved. From an insider perspective, how should that improvement be done?
We have done very well for ourselves, by ourselves. We have come this far. Improvement is relative in every aspect. And whether you like it or not, in virtually all industries in the world, like in Hollywood, for instance, they have what we call B movies, substandard movies and all of that, as big and as good as they are. Yes, they could, depending on how it's told. However, there is a market determining factor that the cinema owners and distributors are looking at. Are we making movies for the people who want to watch, which are your locals, or for the international? Filmmaking is universal. We know that. In other words, a proper good film should resonate, irrespective of tradition, culture, backgrounds, or norms. Yeah, but these days, there is a huge followership of people who love their actors, their stars, and they want to identify with them based on what they know them as. And that's their locality, that's their finding. And they want to just have it that way.
This is a business of roughly $3.2 billion. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. And the Nigerian film industry generates at least $600 million annually in terms of revenue, and it's about 30% of the Nigerian GDP. Just how much of an asset is this industry in keeping the Nigerian economy and lives keep going? It should be the second largest employer after the agricultural sector.
You think it should be, or it is?
It is.
Okay. Yes, indeed, it is. We have clouds of filmmakers in different parts of Nigeria that are making films, right? And each production probably lasts maybe a week, sometimes 10 days, sometimes a month. Now it is constant. So when you want to do the figure, you say we have a couple of, like in Lagos alone, you can have up to like 10.
Which of course is the capital of the Nigerian
Exactly.
film industry, if you
Yes.
want, statistically.
Yes, true. So you can have up to 10, 20 different, 30 different productions going on simultaneously in Lagos. Each of those productions have a minimum of 50 employees within the production level. So when you think about that number and then you put it together in Nigeria, definitely we're doing very, very well for the GDP of the country economically. And that's why the governments are beginning to see this, and I'm thinking, okay, that's the next step to do. Entertainment needs the government involvement and intervention to help, boost it and, make it better. You definitely need the government.
Especially former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan
Yes.
appearing in official ceremonies to give a kind of government approval of the Nigerian movie industry and what it does in the construction of the country's image abroad.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very true. And that's helped and aided us hugely. We got lots of cinemas through him, you understand, and we are growing still. And this new government is looking deeply into it too, to help enhance, the production, because yes, it's quite good for the economy. It's extremely good for the economy. You let the money go round within your country. Basically, the money is going round and round within yourselves instead of just getting the money and then throwing it out.
A culture of peace in Nigeria. This is a country built on more issues of divides, the political divides, the cultural divides, the religious divides. These are the three main components that regulate the Nigerian society since independence. Do you think that the movie industry has succeeded to be beyond those divides where politics, where economics has failed to provide a sense of unity?
Yes, they have. As a matter of fact, they're bridging it. They're bridging it for the economy and for the politicians.
Is it easy for a Muslim actor in Nigeria to kiss a lady without wearing a burqa in a Nigerian movie, without some cultural backlash from, say, the Lamido of Kano, Sanusi or Yola? Or is that possible?
They have their industry. They still have, a very strong industry in the north.
Which means that the cultural and religious divide exists even in the movie industry alone.
Yes, you must understand, of course, there has to be, there has to be a balance. People have their way of life, their morals and whatever, and they want to put it, if they want to do it in the movies, they have to still reflect it the way it is. It's the way of life. And you can't stop that, If they don't, by matter of principles, and he doesn't want or she can't go beyond certain demands of what the story is, you should allow him.
Is there a particular film, since you have spent at least 26 years in this business, that you think somehow helped to quench tensions in Nigeria? Is there a particular movie?
Well, I'm trying to think if there is any one of that nature, but no, not yet. I finished a movie that was shot in 2012, which had to do with the assassination of Murtala Mohammed, and it wasn't like it's a historical movie, but it wasn't complete.
Each time I go to the market to buy and watch a Nigerian movie, it is a story about juju, and juju It is a story which has to do with cultism. It is a story which has to do about love, love, love. Don't you think that you guys have run out of ideas? I've not seen this kind of tech-savvy, science fiction, great imaginative movies in the likes of Avatar, The King's Speech.
Okay, let me break this to you. You see, what actually determines the kind of movie we do is the market.
Do you know Billionaires Club with people like Okanayo? Okay.
I do.
Now you understand what I'm talking about.
I totally do.
There is a lot of witchcraft and all to that.
I totally do.
Is that really the real picture of an ordinary Nigerian life?
No, of course not. But it was at the time it was selling. They hardly do such movies anymore these days. But at that time it was selling. Because if it wasn't, they wouldn't do it. Basically, that's why I said the determining factor is the market. Secondly, we filmmakers in Nigeria, we do more of reality films, something we can identify with. And that's why our kind of story resonates easily. It's almost like real life, like almost docudramas of people's stories. Yeah, it's a reflection of what goes on in our society, what happens between brothers, sisters, husbands and wives, and all of that. So it's more of like reality. So we are yet to go into sci-fis, hopefully in some time. Don't get me wrong, we do have our stories that have to do with like some of our local great gods like Shango and everything. Some of the stories we had back then about our own greats, and I know we can put that to proper filmmaking.
Let's talk the place of the Nigerian movie industry in the construction of the country's cultural diplomacy. If it is not Nigerian music that people are consuming in Africa in particular, in the likes of P Square, Final, Whiskey, we are consuming Nigerian movies in the likes of Patience Ozokwo, in the likes of Ramsey Nouah, in the likes of Okanayo. Which to you is the best seller of Nigeria's image in the world today? The music industry or the movie industry or football?
They all have their time. It started with football. We did very well during the mid-90s when we tried winning the Nations Cup. And then came the movie. And the movie sailed for a while. And after the movie came the music industry. So they all have their moments in time. However, the movie is still very, very prevalent because it's almost like, there's a continuity in filmmaking, in the movie industry, that it won't stop as long as we give it an enabling environment for it to thrive. It's hard for the performance, right? It's hard for the performance to have longevity or being sustainable. But the industry itself is there forever.
Which is the greatest threat to the Nigerian movie industry today? Sponsorship, storyboard, scenario, finances? The combination of all?
Yes, the combination of all. The filmmaking chain is quite huge. Unlike what you see in the movies and the TVs,
online distribution, which is increasingly becoming a major component today with distributors like Iroko and others based in the United States, which is one of the main distributors online of Nigerian movie industry. Has that helped in boosting or in solving some of the problems?
Absolutely, yes, it has. In every sphere. The growth of alternative market has really helped to boom the industry. Otherwise, the industry would have died.
Do you understand the worry of some film critics who consider the Nigerian movie industry as just Sunday school drama?
I do understand that. I totally do. It's easier to actually criticize from wherever you stand, from your standpoint, especially when you're not there. We have a typical saying that he who wears his shoes knows where he hurts. We have our setbacks. Most of our filmmakers are not waiting for the day the manna falls from heaven that will provide good money for them to go shoot a good film. Whatever they could put together, they put together to shoot. As drab and as crappy as it might seem, it still had an appeal to a certain group and class of people. And from that appeal came the growth of what we have today.
You are a hybrid. You have some Israeli origins, you have some Nigerian origins. You are roughly 46 years old today, and plus half of your life on earth has been spent in the movie industry with at least 50 films in which you have taken part, and you were given the 2010 Best Lead in Acting. What gives you energy?
Energy. I don't know. I guess passion, the love, the absolute love. I am very, very passionate about my work. I'm very passionate about it. As a matter of fact, I think one of the major drives for me also is the fact that we started, and I always say this, building the industry. I was part of those who helped, build the industry in every way I could. That's Nollywood. And I keep saying to lots of people that this was an industry like we made bread out of a stone, like what they said in the Bible. We had nothing. Well, here we are today, we're being celebrated, and people identify with us. So we've come a long way, sweat, tears, and blood.
You are qualified as the love boy of the Nigerian movie industry. Why are you so vulnerable to films that have to do with love, especially when women are involved?
I know, right? You must understand the strongest buying power in the world is the women. So you identify with them, you're sure of the market. I guess that's my call.
Are you sure? It's not a childhood.
If you become a director and you want to pull me to act, will you use me as a villain or as a lover boy? Look at the market. The market will determine, right? Oh, yes. If it's... Charles, really? Did you just ask if it was probably from childhood? You think?
I asked if it is a childhood attitude.
Always running after women, always falling in love.
Give the interpretation you want to give.
Exactly. Have you never been in love, Charles?
I hope I do the questioning here and you do the answering.
Oh, Charles, nobody is devoid of love.
Politics is a very complex and delicate issue on the continent, and Nigeria not excluded because of its long history of military takeovers in the country. Each time you want to do political films in Nigeria, especially when you had to act the book of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Half a Yellow Sun, what kind of backlash do you get? Censorship, like it happened in that film? Is it rampant to discuss political issues that are hardcore to the very element of Nigeria, national unity?
Now, yes, in all sphere, being able to actually
I'm talking about the War of Secession here in particular, the Biafra War. Is it easy to just demonstrate that in a movie in Nigeria without some political backlash?
Well, it depends on how the story is being told. And being easy or not easy, I don't understand. I couldn't get it. But
I know that at one moment they had to stop the screening of Half a Yellow Sun by Nigerian authorities, that there are some elements which needed to be edited. How free are you guys to do political movies in Nigeria?
It depends, like I always say, it depends on how the story is being told. You want to discuss the political history of a nation, then there's need to do proper groundwork and to get proper authority in place to let you have permit to certain things. Now, stories are being seen from different viewpoints, right? Political, cultural, like you rightly said, religious, and all of that. You don't want to say it from a myopic point, which is the point which interests you the most. Most times when we want to do stuff, so we're thinking about it from our selfish point of view. Okay, we're looking at, okay, just this, just that. Now, we always say, for instance, now a judge wants to judge a case. Now, he wants to know, why did you commit the murder? Did this guy drastically, bloodily killed somebody? Normal jungle justice will lash out at the guy and just take him out instantly. But now, at time, we've gotten mature to realize that there's always a need to look at every situation at the full Monty and not just myopically. What's the reason?
From a holistic point of view.
Yes.
The global image.
Well, not just global.
To have
like
all the elements inside.
Exactly, all the elements inside. For instance,
a
now.
careful cross-examination of all the issues involved.
Yes. I'm not saying that half of the Yellow Sun probably didn't do that. For whatever reason, I didn't go into the politicking of what led to the reason why they took it off cinemas. I didn't go into it. I don't know the details. But I know for certain that there's always a clause for every issue somewhere here and there. Before you put something out, you need to make sure you clear those clauses, so that when you do come out, you won't have issues.
Ramsey Nouah, Nigerian film actor, thank you very much indeed for being guest on Globewatch.
Thank you for having me too.
You're welcome.
Thanks.